my god, she's showing her uncle. Wow! Wow!
Hello there! If you're new here, I'm Miriam and this is my gaming perspective. I know most of you will probably know that most of the video game industry is based in Japan. Most of our video games actually come from Japan, from Japanese companies like Nintendo, Capcom, Square Enix, and Sony. So it really comes as no surprise that in some cases this would reflect on the video games. So in some video games we can actually get a glimpse of the Japanese culture. And sometimes it's not a glimpse, it's just a full-on punch in the face that leaves you quite shocked, to be honest. In other cases, however, these Japanese companies always try to westernize their games. They try to make them as Western as possible in order for us, the Western gamers. How many times have I said Western in this video already? Oh my god. Oh wow. In order for us, the Western gamers, to feel closer to their video games. But even though they sometimes do this in order for their video games to sell better in the West, we still can get some glimpses, or as I said before, full-on punches of the Japanese culture who is not really trying to be hidden in the video game. That's why today we're going to do something really interesting, at least for me. And we are going to see what aspects of the Japanese culture I could find in Final Fantasy VII the Remake. Of course, some of these aspects you can also find it in the original one, but the one I recently played is the remake, so we're going to focus on that one. First of all, let me ask you, what is the most Japanese or Oriental thing you can find in Final Fantasy VII? Do you have any guesses? It's really obvious. I'm talking about Woolmarket. For those of you who don't know what Woolmarket is, it started off as a shopping district. And later on, illegal things started happening there. And once those illegal things started happening, this Woolmarket was actually surrounded by a wall in order to hide it, or to make it less obvious that Woolmarket was there, though it's still obvious if you ask me. If you're in the game, you can obviously see Woolmarket in the distance. It by no means is trying to stay hidden, that's for sure. And everyone knows it's there, so it doesn't really make sense to put walls around it, but okay. In this case, you're trying to hide a problem when what you should do is trying to deal with the problem, but I guess Shinra had better things to do at that time, so they just put a wall around it. Reminds me of someone. Woolmarket is also known for its Redlight District. And even though it doesn't say this, there's prostitution and all of that going on there, right? Woolmarket is also run by the crime lord called Don Cornea. Ho-hee. He's a really disgusting guy. Like, my goodness. When I was watching his scenes in the game, I don't know why, but I could only focus on the jiggle of his tummy. Ho-hee. That's his Japanese laugh, by the way. And I'm not even going to try to make it more realistic, because no, that's not going to work. I'm not a voice actress, so no. So when I first came in contact with Woolmarket, it reminded me of something in the Japanese history. I'm talking about Yoshiwara. For those of you who are familiar with the Japanese history, you will know that Yoshiwara was a red light district. This Yoshiwara red light district came to be around the 17th century in Japan, in the city of Edo. And its story is really similar to the one we can see in the game, to the one of Woolmarket. In the Edo period, in the early 17th century, there started to be a lot of male and female prostitution in Japan, and specifically in the cities of Osaka, Kyoto, and Edo. Because of this, Tokugawa Hidetada, who was part of the Tokugawa shogunate, decided to restrict this prostitution in certain specific districts, red light districts, in order for this prostitution and all of those kinds of things not to spread all over Japan, I guess. That's how these red light districts came to be, and how the Yoshiwara district happened. Right, now, since we are talking about red light districts and all of that, and prostitution, who do you think in Woolmarket represents this prostitution aspect of the Yoshiwara red light district? Well, I'm talking about Madame M, of course. I mean, she's the one who gives handjobs. What an euphemism right there. Handjobs. Yes, of course. Handjobs. A hand massage. Right? Hand massage. My goodness, that scene. I have to tell you that I've never blushed playing a video game. But when I watched that, I don't know. It's as if I don't know. Let's leave it like that. Let's leave it at that. No. Yeah. Okay. Let's just say I never thought I would hear those kinds of sound coming from Cloud. But okay. Fun service, I guess. And I'm glad for it. I would say that Madame M resembles an oiran. And what is an oiran, you might ask? Well, an oiran was a high-ranking prostitute in districts like the Yoshiwara district. Why were they high-ranking? Well, mainly because of their beauty. They were the kind of courtesans that a lot of people wanted to get a hold of. They wanted to spend time with them the most because they were really beautiful and they were the queens of prostitutes, the empresses of prostitutes. They were the best of the best you could get in these red light districts. While the oiran were the most popular and highly regarded prostitutes or courtesans, you also had the jujo. And the jujo were regular prostitutes in Yoshiwara. And jujo actually means playgirl. And it makes sense, right? They were girls who you were going to play with. Play being another euphemism. My goodness, this world is plagued with euphemisms.
Euphemism.
But we all know what they all mean, don't we? Now, how would you know that Madame M is actually an oiran? Well, from her appearance, of course. The first thing that gives her away, it's her obi, her belt. The belt she wears around her waist and around her kimono. But for those of you who are not familiar with the Japanese culture, you might have thought that the way she wears this obi, her belt, is normal. But it's actually not. For you to realize that she's not actually wearing the obi in a normal way, you would have to compare the way she wears it to the way geishas wear it. Can you see the difference? Madame M actually has her obi tied at the front, while geishas have their obi tied at the back. That's actually one of the main indications that she's actually a prostitute. Prostitutes in ancient Japan used to wear obis tied at the front to indicate that they obviously were prostitutes and to differentiate themselves from geishas, maikos, and all that. Another thing that makes it really obvious is her hairdo. Oirans in the past usually wore 8 large hairpins, which were upwards, made of tortoise shell, silver, and gemstones. And they wore this together with an elaborate, heavily waxed hairstyle, which was known as the date hyogo, which is really similar to the one Madame M wears in the video game. Another thing that makes us believe that Madame M is an oiran or tries to imitate the style of an Edo period oiran, it's her shoes. Oiran in the past usually wore something called komageta, which were 3-pronged, 20 centimeters tall Paulonia wood clogs. These kinds of clogs, shoes, really made it difficult for them to walk. And in order for them to walk, they would have to take really tiny and small steps and walk really slowly and kind of in a feminine way, I guess. I guess this was the purpose, for them to walk, in what was considered a feminine way, I guess. I don't know, I don't really get it, but that's the reason why when you see Madame M in the video game, she's walking in this weird kind of way. It's because they are trying to imitate the way Oiran walked in the past due to the shoes they were wearing. The last thing that tells us that Madame M is a prostitute or an oiran are actually her feet. And if there's anyone who's watching this video who has a foot fetish, you would have realized that Madame M is not wearing socks. And usually in Japan, when you're wearing this kind of geta, this kind of clogs, you wear something called tabi socks, in order for the clogs to feel more comfortable. But in Japan at that time, in the Edo period, the feet and showing someone's feet was considered erotic. The same way as in the past, if a woman showed her ankle or her feet, it was something really scandalous because,
oh my god, she's showing her ankle. Wow.
You would think she was showing a nipple or something like that. Like, my goodness, it's just an ankle. Like, okay. So she's not wearing any socks, which was also something really common in prostitutes and not in geishas, of course. Apart from all of that, we also have her outrageously looking and incredible kimono, because that thing is incredibly beautiful and looks really expensive. But that was also another characteristic of Oran in the past. Now, before I go on to the next and the last thing I want to talk about, let me just say that Oran and geishas were not the same thing. Oirans were prostitutes, geishas are not. This is a really common misconception, but geishas are not prostitutes. They are entertainers. They dance, they sing, they act, but they never sleep with their clients. They never do that. Never. Oirans did. They were also entertainers, mind you. They knew how to dance, they knew how to sing, they played the samisen, but they were prostitutes. They actually used their bodies in order to gain money. I guess they earned money. I don't know how that system worked, but yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is something you can see in the orphanage in Sector 5. When you go to the orphanage and you actually enter it, if you look beside the door, you would see a cupboard with shoes in it, or slippers. If you're familiar with the Japanese culture, you would know that before entering someone's house or your house, you need to take your shoes off. It's a sign of respect. And in order for the floors not to get damaged and for them not to get dirty and all that. But this is actually done in high schools and in schools all over Japan. When children go to school, well, there's something in the school, in the genkan, in the entryway of the school called getabako. And getabako are cupboards where children can change their shoes. they leave their outside shoes there and put their inside shoes there. They changed their shoes in this getapaco. And what I saw in this orphanage actually reminded me of that. Because this is not only an orphanage, it's also school where they are learning and they are doing stuff like that. Even though this detail doesn't really make sense, because you would think that if you find that in an orphanage, you would see it in every house, because you would think it's part of the Final Fantasy VII culture. But it's not, because when you go to Aerith's house, Cloud doesn't take off his shoes, and no one actually does. And that actually concludes my video for today. Did you know about these things? Did you realize that Madame M was an oiran? Did you know about orans? If you did or if you didn't, please leave a comment down below telling me all about it. And if you have liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos in the future. I'll see you in the next video.